it's the Lawn Gnome, and welcome to the video event that I know that you all have been patiently waiting for. A long time ago, although it feels like it's been a long time ago, I gave you guys a little incentive to help me reach a goal of 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And I said that the minute I find out that I have reached that number, I am going to give you all the ultimate shelf tour. And this is now officially going to be a series of videos because I know that so many of you are curious as to what is behind me right now, because that is definitely a great deal of stuff to talk about and show you all. But there are so many other things that I love to collect. And I want to make sure, because of the fact that you all helped me get to this goal, that you get to see everything and anything that I collect in the world of popular culture. And there's going to be so many awesome things to show you all. I just cannot wait, and I don't even know how much I can say thank you billions upon millions of times, because you all helped me reach a goal that I never thought that when I turned on my camera for the very first time in 2011 that I would ever reach this goal. So we're going to begin this shelf tour video series with my DVD and Blu-ray collection. So that means you're going to be taking a look at the television series that I own, as well as the films that I own. Whether it's a single film or whether it's a series of films, you're going to see them all. But also, you're going to start seeing a couple of interesting things that you have never seen before. Because not only do you see what's behind me, this is also the only part of my amazing collection that you see. So you're actually going to be seeing some other parts of my house, which is going to be even more interesting. So also, you're probably going to see a couple of interesting things on said shelves as we go through this series that you're going to want to stop the video and say, please, please show me this up close, I have to see it. Well, we're going to stick with the themes. You will see everything in time. I promise. So without further ado, it is time to begin the Shelf Tour series. As I said, because I promised that this would happen, we are going to begin today with part 1 of my Shelf Tour DVD and Blu-ray collection. Let's begin. So yeah, you're looking at a different shelf. This is actually the shelf that is right across from me when I am recording my videos. This is actually my music shelf. We're going to go into further detail on this said shelf, but the reason why we're looking at this one right now is because there actually are some movies on this shelf, and they are movies that fit in with the theme of music. And obviously, even though you do see CDs, yes, I still do collect CDs, there's other music-centric stuff here, but again, in time. So we're going to go on to this little shelf right over here, and these are a lot of my movies that are themed around music. They are musicals, they are also biopics, and there are also some other interesting music-related DVDs. So, of course, we've got some of the greatest musicals of all time, Singin' in the Rain, and of course, The Music Man, which is actually one of the very first live-action movies that I ever saw. I think it might actually be the first live-action movie I ever saw. Now, this movie is not necessarily a musical, but it revolves around one of the greatest bands in rock and roll, and that is Kiss. It is the 1999 cult classic Detroit Rock City. I highly recommend it if you haven't ever seen it. And then, of course, we've got Into the Woods, we've got La La Land, we've got one of my favorite music-centric films of all time, Sing Street. I wanted to see this movie in theaters so badly, but it was never playing anywhere near me, and I bought it just because I wanted to see it, and I loved it so much, I watched it 2 times in one night, and it is still one of my favorites to this very day. And one of the more recent films that has come out that is all about music is Yesterday, which is the Danny Boyle-directed film about a man who is the only person who remembers the Beatles. It is just one of the greatest feel-good movies I've ever seen. And then, of course, we've got Yellow Submarine, which is the animated classic which features the Beatles. We've got Love and Mercy, which is the biopic of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. Straight Outta Compton, which, of course, is about NWA, one of the coolest movies ever made. We've got Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, and clearly there's no reason to go into more details because you've probably seen those 2 films. And then, of course, I've got these 2 two interesting DVDs called Animusic. They were on public broadcasting, and they basically were interesting computer digital music. It's so hard to explain it, but if you type in Animusic on your YouTube search menu, you can find it. It is definitely something unique, and it is something interesting to watch. The next thing is actually a CD, believe it or not, but we're not going to go into that one. And if you really want to know what's on the end of the shelf, it's actually my wedding video, but we're not going to go into that either. But anyway, those are my music-centric DVDs and Blu-rays, and now let's go to the shelf behind me when I record my videos. So welcome to the madness that is my DVD and Blu-ray collection. And clearly you could see a couple of other things on these shelves. Yeah, you will be getting a full-on Funko Pop video along with this specific collection. I've got a lot of Funko Pops to show you guys, even though I have featured them in some videos. To show you guys the whole collection is definitely going to be a treat. So we're going to go behind the couch. I also have a step ladder to actually help me go through all these DVDs and Blu-rays because I will have to climb up to get to the top shelves. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from left to right, or possibly right to left if we're looking on the opposite direction. But anyway, let's get into these shelves. We're going to start with the TV shows. When it comes to television shows, it's really give and take. It has to be a show that I know for a solid fact that I'm going to watch over and over again. And I'm happy to say that every single one of them are those that are in my collection because I've actually recently rewatched a bunch of them. So I've got the full 9 seasons of How I Met Your Mother. I've got the full 12 seasons of The Big Bang Theory, and at this moment, I'm actually rewatching this series from beginning to end. I just finished the first season, and it was just as funny as I remembered it, and I'm so excited to watch how these characters grew. Even though I did, it's just going to be really cool to watch it all in one shot, or at least a couple of months. And then, of course, I've got one of my favorite HBO series, Entourage, which is just one of the funniest and coolest shows ever. A show that a lot of people did not know existed, but I know some people that did, and it is The Newsroom, also an amazing HBO show starring Jeff Daniels. We've also got the cult favorite Freaks and Geeks from Judd Apatow, and also one of my favorite shows, Boston Legal, starring James Spader, Candice Bergen, and the great William Shatner. Here we have one of the greatest television shows of all time, which is all 9 seasons of Seinfeld. I rewatched this show last year, and it is fantastic. I've also got all 11 seasons of Married with Children. If you were a fan of Jay Pritchett on Modern Family, this was where Ed O'Neill got his start and became a household name as the great Al Bundy. Fun fact, the interesting thing about Married with Children and Modern Family is Ed O'Neill is one of the few actors to ever star in a successful show for 11 years each. It is just so crazy to know that his show actually lasted 11 years with Married with Children and 11 years with Modern Family, which just ended in 2020. Also, another one of the greatest shows that you probably never watched, which is News Radio. It was a starring cast of a whole bunch of unknowns at the time, now known, including the late Phil Hartman, who everybody did know at the time, but it also stars David Foley. It stars Maura Tierney from ER, Condi Alexander, Andy Dick. It was such a funny show. Even Joe Rogan was on this show. Really, really funny show. And next to my pop of Jim Henson, it would be impossible for me not to have The Muppet Show. And the coolest thing about those DVDs is that these were the first releases, so each and every one of their covers has Muppet fuzz. Although they never made seasons 4 and 5, and I'm very, very upset that they never did. On this specific shelf, it's probably my favorite because it's got something that's very special to me. First of all, going on with Jim Henson, I've got the complete series of Fraggle Rock. Now, I never watched this show when it first aired, but my wife is a huge fan, so we've actually been watching this show. We do either Fraggle Fridays or Sprocket Saturdays, and we just have so much fun. My wife also had the first collection of Looney Tunes Golden Collection, and I seriously think that we may consider completing this because I love the Looney Tunes. They're classics. I even saw the trailer for the new Looney Tunes cartoons on HBO Max, and they look fantastic, but you can't deny how great the classics are. Another classic is Steven Spielberg's Animaniacs. I loved this show so much more than Tiny Toon Adventures. I have all 4 seasons. They are fantastic, and my wife has a birthday gift coming very soon. It is the complete series of Hysteria. Now we're going to move on to comic book related television shows. The HBO short-lived series, which shouldn't have been, there should have been so many more, that is Todd McFarlane's Spawn. It was one of the coolest animated shows ever, and no, it ain't for kids. Neither was the complete series of MTV's The Max, but for kids, I've got the complete Fox X-Men the Animated Series, Disney's Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which really did end too soon, and of course, if you guys don't know me, now you will. It is impossible for me not to have praise for Bruce Timm. I love Bruce Timm and company. They've given us some of the greatest shows, and these are also the guys that pretty much turned me into a massive DC Comics fan. Even though I had always been a Batman fan, I love DC so much more now. So of course I've got all 4 seasons of Batman the Animated Series, all 3 seasons of Superman the Animated Series, all 3 seasons of Batman Beyond, all 4 seasons of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. That's 2 for Justice League and 2 for JLU. I've also got all 3 seasons of Young Justice. So glad that even though they are streaming Young Justice now, that they are still putting it out on DVD. And another show that unfortunately ended too soon, Green Lantern the Animated Series. I got the entire series. I'm really upset that they renewed Young Justice and they didn't renew Green Lantern the Animated Series. I really hope that they will reconsider, but as you can see, there's a little space over here because that is going to be where Harley Quinn Season 1 goes. It's coming out in June and I cannot wait. Now we have to take a look at some other awesome things. I mean, The Simpsons. This entire shelf is pretty much The Simpsons, as well as a really awesome Funko Pop, but I've got The Simpsons from Season 1 all the way to Season 20, and I've got the complete series of The Critic, which was created by the creators of The Simpsons. Now we're going to take a look at some other shows, animated and live action. I've got the complete series of NBC's Heroes. I don't have Heroes Reborn because it just wasn't great. I've got the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things. These are awesome. I love the boxes, and these are Target exclusives. I've got the first 2 seasons of The Orville, which is now on Hulu streaming. And I've also got the first 2 seasons of Westworld. I just finished watching Season 3. Along with the Daria Pop, I've got the complete series of Daria. I've also got Family Guy from Seasons 1 through 16. Continuing on with Family Guy, I've got Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story, Family Guy Parental Terms of Endearment, which was the banned episode, and the 3 Star Wars Family Guy specials. I also have the first 8 seasons of American Dad. I kind of stopped watching after Volume 8, and I have no shame in that. These are really good DVDs. I don't know if I'll ever collect the rest of the series. I'm not sure. And now we're going to take a look at some Adult Swim, which I was a big fan of in my college years. I've got the full series of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, the full series of C-Lab 2021, I have all of Aqua Teen Hunger Force that was available on DVD all the way up to Aqua Unit Patrol Squad 1, and if you take a look, I've even got the movie, which is Aqua Teen Hunger Force : movie film for theaters. That movie is so weird, but it is really, really funny. And I've also got the 7 seasons of Robot Chicken. I believe there are more, but they never put them on DVD yet. If they do, I would seriously consider picking them up. I've got the complete series of Invader Zim, although I hope that Invader Zim Enter the Florpus will come out on DVD at some point in time, because I would love to own that movie. I've also got Drawn Together, the complete series, which is probably one of the most politically incorrect shows ever made, but I love it. And I also have the Drawn Together movie, and I've got The Oblongs, which starred the voices of Gene Smart and Will Ferrell. I highly recommend this show. It is funny. It was only 13 episodes, but it was basically about a perfect loving family of freaks who live in a toxic waste dump. Now we're going to move on to anime. Yes, I also do have anime, even though I don't really talk about it much on my channel, but I've got all of Dragon Ball, except for Dragon Ball Super. I am going to start adding Dragon Ball Super to my collection. I'm in the middle of rewatching this entire series, and I'm actually up to Volume 8 on Dragon Ball Z. The only reason why it's here is because I obviously wanted to show it to you guys, but I've got the 4-pack of the Dragon Ball movies. I've got all 5 seasons of Dragon Ball, all 9 seasons of DBZ. I've got all the DBZ movies, including the 2 that sort of are connected to Dragon Ball Super, as well as Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I've also got the 2 seasons of Dragon Ball GT. Now we're on the bottom shelf, and I am very uncomfortable because I'm on my back while I'm recording this, but I've got some additional animes, including the full series of Ranma 1/2, including the OVAs. Ranma 1/2 is one of the kookiest but hilarious shows that I've ever watched. I cannot wait to rewatch this show soon. I've also got Princess 9, which is if you're a sports fan, whether it's Remember the Titans or The Sandlot or A League of Their Own, Princess 9 is definitely an anime you should check out. Love Hina, which is also a really great romantic comedy show, including the OVA episodes, and these happen to be my wives. They are Ouran High School Host Club, the complete series, and School Rumble, the first and second semester. I've also got the complete series of Akira Kurosawa's Samurai 7, which is one of the most brilliantly written animes ever made. I've also got the complete series of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, including the movie The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, as well as the complete series of Manga Daio. Now we're officially into the movies, and I've got some franchises up here on the top, but there's plenty more franchises on the bottom. I have Star Wars. I have Episodes 1 through 3, including the short-lived Clone Wars micro-series from Cartoon Network. I love watching that from time to time. I've also got Star Wars Rogue One, which is one of my favorites of the newest Star Wars films. Of course, I've got the original trilogy. This is the first time it ever got released on DVD. I've also got all 3 of the sequels, and while I don't really have so many nice things to say about them, I'm a completionist, so I'm glad that I have them all in my collection. I don't have Solo: A Star Wars Story, and I have no intentions to ever get it, and at this point in time, I don't have any intentions of getting Clone Wars or Rebels either. But I do have the complete adventures of Indiana Jones, including Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I think is very much underappreciated. My favorite trilogy of all time, Back to the Future. I've also got all 5 Pirates of the Caribbean films. I've got the 3 Chronicles of Narnia films, and I love them so much. I've also got the 2 National Treasure films, Where is National Treasure 3? All 3 Night at the Museum movies, which are really, really cute. I've also got the 3 recent Star Trek films. I've got the entire Hunger Games series. And I've also got the recent Planet of the Apes series, including the original Planet of the Apes. We have now moved on to one of my favorite shelves on this grouping, and that, of course, is my Disney shelf. I have Pixar and Disney classics, including a couple of other hidden gems. So, I don't have all the canon classics because I'm just not a fan of all of them, especially since I've been rewatching them. I've definitely come to the decisions on which ones I want to own and which ones I really don't have any intentions to see again. So, we're going to go in somewhat chronological order, and you'll understand what I mean by that. But we've got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Fantasia 2000s. It's a double pack, so clearly it's not entirely, with 2 films in one. One came out in 1940 and the other one came out in 1999. So we've got Dumbo, the only one of the group short films that I've ever gotten, and that of course is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and it is definitely one of my personal favorites. I love watching The Legend of Sleepy Hollow on Halloween. We've got Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland, 101 Dalmatians, Robin Hood, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We've got The Rescuers double pack, which of course includes the 1977 Rescuers and the 1990 Rescuers Down Under. We've got The Fox and the Hound, which came out in the year that I was born, so I'm very happy to own this film. The Great Mouse Detective, which is one of my personal favorite Disney classics. Moving on into the Renaissance, we've got The Little Mermaid, we've got Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, and Tarzan. And then we've got Atlantis, the Lost Empire, which is one of my personal favorites. And then, of course, we've got Lilo and Stitch and Treasure Planet, which I finally saw last year, and it is now one of my all-time favorite Disney classics. Bolt, which I just reviewed, very, very underrated. Tangled, Winnie the Pooh, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, Moana, and in Blu-ray, we've got Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2. Moving on to Pixar, but before we do that, We got to take a look at the movie tunes. We've got DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, and a Goofy movie, which are 2 movies based on Disney afternoon shows. And now the Pixars. We've got the Pixar shorts, including the 3rd volume on Blu-ray, 1 on DVD. We've got Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, and Toy Story 3. To see the rest of them, we gotta move down one shelf. And here they are. We've got Cars 2, Brave, Monsters University, Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory, Cars 3, Coco, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4. And then we've got some Studio Ghibli, which is also one of my personal favorite film series. These are all fantastic films. Have seen them all, don't like all of them, but the ones that you will see here are the ones that I own. Castle in the Sky. This is a very interesting copy of My Neighbor Totoro. This includes the Fox Family dub and not the Disney dub. We've also got Grave of the Fireflies, which is such a sad movie, but it is truly one of the greatest films ever made. Roger Ebert called it the greatest war film of all time. Not animated film of all time. Kiki's Delivery Service, Only Yesterday, the TV miniseries special Ocean Waves, Pom Poko, Whisper of the Heart, The Princess Mononoke, My Neighbors the Yamatos, which is definitely one of the most unique and funniest of the films, Spirited Away, The Cat Returns, Ponyo, The Secret World of Arrietty, From Up on Poppy Hill, The Wind Rises, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, and When Marnie Was There. And now we're going to go into some general family films, animated and non. We've got the first 3 Muppet movies, which is The Muppet Movie, The Great Muppet Caper, and The Muppets Take Manhattan. The Great Muppet Caper is one of the other few live-action films that I saw when I was a kid. And now I've got some classic 80s stuff. I've got The Secret of the Sword, which is the He-Man She-Ra movie, and for my wife, I got her the 2 Care Bears films. Proud of the fact that we own them, and of course, the 1987 Transformers film. We've also got Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, and we've got Jetsons the movie, one of my favorite films of all time, The Iron Giant, which was Brad Bird's first directed film, the Powerpuff Girls movie, Horton Hears a Who, which is the only good Dr. Seuss animated movie ever made. This one is so funny. Steve Carell and Jim Carrey together along with the great Carol Burnett, magic. We've also got Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2, The Adventures of Tintin, which is such a good movie. Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson together on this one, and I believe Edgar Wright was attached to this one as well. What a fantastic film, and the animation is beautiful. The Peanuts movie, which is also one of the greatest animated films that I've ever seen. Secret Life of Pets, which is so funny. I haven't seen the second one yet, but I plan to. Kubo and the True Strings, which is the only Laika film that I own, but it's really, really great. And Isle of Dogs, which is the only Wes Anderson film that I own, but it is also one of the greatest animated films I've ever seen. Now we're going to move on to some gigantic box sets. I've got the extended editions of all of The Lord of the Rings, directed by Peter Jackson, as well as The Hobbit, and I've also got the ultimate editions of Harry Potter 1 through 8. 7 is Year 7, and it is both of the Deathly Hallows films in one box set. These are amazing DVDs and Blu-rays, and I have been reviewing these on my Harry Potter redo projects. And of course, I've got Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now we're going to take a look at my other favorite row on this bookshelf. It is my comic book collection, and we're really going to be moving on from here. So these are all Bruce Timm animated films. We've got everything from the ones that came out in the 90s to the ones that are now part of this gigantic library, which has almost as many Disney canon classics, which is kind of scary. But we've got Batman the Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, which was the first animated film from DC and Warner Animation to be rated PG-13, and then we've got the DC Animated Library, which is Superman Doomsday, Justice League The New Frontier, Batman Gotham Knight, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern's First Flight, Superman Batman Public Enemies, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Batman Under the Red Hood, the DC Showcase Shorts set of Superman, Shazam, The Return of Black Adam, All-Star Superman, Green Lantern, Emerald Knights, Batman Year One, Justice League Doom, Superman vs. the Elite, Batman The Dark Knight Returns Parts 1 and 2, Superman Unbound, Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox, Justice League War, Son of Batman, Batman Assault on Arkham, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, Batman vs. Robin, Justice League Gods and Monsters, Justice League vs. Teen Titans, Batman the Killing Joke, Justice League Dark, Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, which was a movie that was supposed to be made like 10 years ago, but they finally made it after years and years of anticipation. And then we've got Batman and Harley Quinn, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay, The Death of Superman, and The Reign of the Superman, which of course is a two-part film. And then we've got my Blu-rays, because you can unfortunately only buy them in Blu-ray. What's very interesting is I gradually went from 2-disc special editions to just single-disc DVDs, because they weren't making the special editions anymore, to Blu-ray, because that's pretty much what they're making when it comes to these movies. So we've got Reign of the Superman, as I said, Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, Batman Hush, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, and Red Sun Superman. And yes, there's going to be a space made for Justice League Dark Apocalypse War in just a couple of weeks. And then we've got the other little series of films that they make, which is based around television shows and other universes. So we've got Batman, The Return of the Caped Crusaders, which of course stars Adam West and Burt Ward. We've got Vixen the Movie, which is based on Greg Berlanti's Arrowverse. Batman vs. Two-Face, which features William Shatner as Two-Face and the very last performance of Adam West. Batman Ninja, Freedom Fighters The Ray, Constantine City of Demons, Batman vs. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is one of the coolest and most fun movies in this entire library, and Teen Titans Go vs. Teen Titans, which is hilarious. Now we're going to move on to live-action comic book films. We've got the 1966 Batman the Movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2007 CGI TMNT, The Mask, The Crow, Men in Black 2, Men in Black 3, The Blade Trilogy, all of the X-Men films outside of Wolverine Origins. So you've got X-Men X2, X3, The Last Stand, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, Rogue Cut, X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Dark Phoenix, and Logan. I've got the first two Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. We will forget that the third one ever existed. Road to Perdition, which stars Tom Hanks and Paul Newman, such a great film. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, a cult favorite, one of my personal favorites in particular, Hellboy, the director's cut, and Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. We've also got the Sin City Recut Extended and Unrated Edition, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, The Dark Knight Trilogy, of course, the Tim Story Fantastic Four films, V for Vendetta, the first Zack Snyder film I ever saw, 300, and of course I also got 300 Rise of the Empire, A History of Violence, the complete story of The Watchmen, which is also known as The Ultimate Cut, and Kick-Ass. Down here we have one of my personal favorites, which is Green Lantern. I've got Red and Red 2. These are really funny movies. Dread, which is starring Carl Urban. If you love The Boys, you've got to see him in this movie. He is fantastic. I've got The Kingsmen and The Kingsmen, The Golden Circle. I've got both Deadpools, and of course, we've got the entire MCU. So we've got Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2. We've got Thor, Captain America, Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy. We've got Avengers Age of Ultron. We've got Ant-Man. We've got Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, which is the only Blu-ray that I own in this series, and of course, Spider-Man Far From Home. And then I've got the DCEU. I've got Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. I've got the rated R edition of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, which is everything I wanted it to be and more. I do have the extended cut of Suicide Squad. I've got Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman, and Shazam. Now, there's another empty row underneath because there's just nothing to put down here, but there will be more coming up. I know that the quality of some of these shelves that you're seeing are not great, so I apologize for that, but this is the only way that I can do this at this point because my lighting is not so great in this room, and I don't want to really spend any money on any expensive ring lights, but as long as I'm telling you what you're seeing, I think we're all good. So here are some other movies. These are all what I refer to as some of the greatest films of all time. So we've got the 1933 classic Duck Soup, an amazing version and edition of Casablanca. So many special features in this DVD and in this box. All About Eve, 12 Angry Men, Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, Psycho, The Hustler. We've got It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which is one of my all-time favorite films. The only Stanley Kubrick film that I can tolerate, which is Dr. Strangelove, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, In the Heat of the Night, The Godfather Trilogy, which I will be reviewing this year. I'm really excited about that. The Sting, which is also one of the very first live-action films I ever saw. I didn't understand it, but I loved it, so I own it now. Chinatown, Network, Do the Right Thing, Schindler's List, Run Lola Run, Forrest Gump, The Patriot, which is one of my wife's favorite films, so I had to get it for her, Whiplash, which is just amazing, Steve Jobs, Spotlight, Parasite, 1917, I got it on Blu-ray because to not have it on Blu-ray would be a mistake, School Ties, which I recently reviewed. I'll post a link to that review so you can see it. You really should see this movie. It's amazing. Crash, United 93, The Help, Sully, Patriots Day, 7 Days in Entebbe, the two Wall Street films, which includes Wall Street and Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, one of Michael Douglas's best performances, Glengarry Glen Ross, Boiler Room, The Count of Monte Cristo, A History of Violence, Entourage the Movie, The Big Short, The Founder, which is the story of Ray Kroc, the man who created the franchises of McDonald's, Molly's Game, which is Aaron Sorkin's very first directed film, and Bombshell. Now, the rest of these films are themed, and I'll explain to you as we go along. So we've got my Quentin Tarantino collection. So I've got Reservoir Dogs, True Romance, which he only wrote but didn't direct, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, both Kill Bills, Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, which gets better every single time I watch it, by the way, The Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And now we've got my Martin Scorsese films. We've got Goodfellas, Casino, The Departed, and The Wolf of Wall Street, and Silence. I'm still waiting for The Irishman. Some movies that are not within the directors, but they do go with the themes of this specific row. So we've got The Untouchables, A Bronx Tale, and the two Boondock Saints films. And now I've got my David Fincher films, Fight Club, The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl. My Edgar Wright collection, which is pretty much all of them. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, The World's End, and Baby Driver. Now we're moving on to Steven Spielberg films and Robert Zemeckis films. So we've got E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Gremlins, which is neither of them, but for some strange reason I think it fits in there. Same with the Goonies, it just fits in this whole grouping. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Hook, the 2003 Peter Pan, which really goes within the theme of Steven Spielberg's Hook, Jurassic Park, Catch Me If You Can, which is one of Steven Spielberg's best films, and Ready Player One. And now just some personal favorites in the world of film in general, and even family-related. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, The Lost Boys, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Hocus Pocus, A House with a Clock in Its Walls, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Birdcage, Jumanji, Clue. Oh, I love that movie so much. I'll put the review for it in the box below. UHF, which is Weird Al Yankovic's starring role, Heavyweights, a Disney favorite amongst many, and Christopher Robin. Now we're going below the Funko Pops and other collectibles just to show you guys a couple of comedy films. So I've got my teen comedies over here. It includes everything from Richard Linklater's classics to The Great John Hughes. So we've got George Lucas's American Graffiti, Porky's, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, St. Elmo's Fire, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I recently reviewed, Pretty in Pink, Dazed and Confused, the unofficial sequel, Everybody Wants Some, which I absolutely love, PCU, Reality Bites, Empire Records, Can't Hardly Wait, all 4 American Pie films, unrated of course. This is actually a 3-pack with American Pie 1 through 3. 10 Things I Hate About You, that is my wife's. Accepted, Superbad, Charlie Bartlett, which is pretty much the movie that really gave us Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback, because right after that he would move on to Iron Man. Dope, starring Shameik Moore, which is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. You've got to see that movie. The Edge of 17, starring Haley Steinfeld. What a great film. And I've got all my Kevin Smith films. I've got Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Clerks the Animated Series, which really does fit into the storyline of the View Askew universe, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I've also got the Mel Brooks collection. This whole box set is actually my wife's, so it's pretty much some of his greatest films, which includes Young Frankenstein, To Be or Not to Be, Blazing Saddles, High Anxiety, History of the World Part 1, Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is my favorite Mel Brooks film of all time, Silent Movie, and The 12 Chairs, and of course, we had to have the two movies that are not in this box set, which of course are Spaceballs and The Producers. I know that there is also Dracula Dead and Loving It, but I really do not like that movie, so there's no reason to have it. So you can't have Mel Brooks without Monty Python. I've got, and now for something completely different, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and The Meaning of Life. And then we've just got some other awesome animated comedies and regular comedies. I've got some Broken Lizard films, I've got both Super Troopers and Beer Fest, and I've got Beavis and Butthead Do America, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and The Simpsons movie. The next grouping of comedies are also very interesting. We are going to first start off with movies that were produced or directed by Ivan Reitman. So we've got Animal House, Stripes, Both Ghostbusters, Private Parts, Road Trip, Evolution, Old School, and Eurotrip. The next group of films are movies that starred specifically Saturday Night Live cast members, even though there were some in some of the movies that I just mentioned. But we've got The Great Trading Places, Caddyshack, Beverly Hills Cop, Wayne's Worlds 1 and 2. By the way, Trading Places should be after Caddyshack. I have no idea how that happened. We've also got Coneheads, which starred a ton of Saturday Night Live cast members, and a bunch of Adam Sandler films, which is including the Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison Double Pack, Big Daddy, Mr. Deeds, and of course one of my favorite films, Tommy Boy. And the rest of these are just awesome comedies, and at the end we've got just some fan favorites and some coming-of-age films. So we've got the Nancy Meyers directed Parent Trap, when Lindsay Lohan actually was fun to watch, The Big Lebowski, which is the only Coen Brothers movie I ever owned, and it is the best one in my opinion, Half-Baked, Mating Habits of the Earthbound Human, which is a movie that stars Mackenzie Aston and Carmen Electra. I highly recommend that you check this movie out. It is so hard to explain, but it is so funny. The Mike Judge classic Office Space, Jackass the Movie, School of Rock, Hitch, Wedding Crashers, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is the only Judd Apatow directed film I own. I really don't care much for his movies. Also another Nancy Meyers film that my wife adores, and I have to admit it is very, very cute. That is The Holiday. Horrible Bosses, The Warriors, The Italian Job, The Nice Guys, The Magnificent Seven, the recent version, not the one from the 1960s. I happen to really like this one. Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, unbelievable. Stand By Me, which is amazing. Still love the fact that this is based on a Stephen King short story. Trainspotting's 1 and 2, 500 Days of Summer, 50/50, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Rebel in the Rye, and I recently picked up A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now we've got some other interesting films. Once again, I apologize for the lighting, but we are in a dark area, so we've got some Tim Burton films, we've got DreamWorks animated films, and we've also got other animated films as well as some sports-themed films. So we've got Beetlejuice, The Collector's Tin of Edward Scissorhands, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, we've got Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Alice in Wonderland, and Alice Through the Looking Glass, which I think is so underrated. Dark Shadows, also another movie I think is underrated. Frankenweenie, which is one of the cutest films I've ever seen, and Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. We've got The Bad News Bears, The Karate Kid Collection, A League of Their Own, The Mighty Ducks, and The Mighty Ducks 2. It's a double pack. Don't have D3, don't care. Rudy, The Sandlot, Remember the Titans, Miracle, Dodgeball, and the Ron Howard Rush. And now we've got some DreamWorks animated films. We've got Shrek and Shrek 2, Shark Tale, Madagascar, Shrek the Third, Over the Hedge, Madagascar, Escape to Africa, Flushed Away, which is also an Aardman animated film, very, very funny. Monsters vs. Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek the Final Chapter, Megamind, Puss in Boots, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, Rise of the Guardians, The Croods, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Trolls, Captain Underpants, and How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. And then, of course, I've got some Don Bluth films, which include American Tail, The Land Before Time, Titan AE, and then I've got both Alvin and the Chipmunks live-action films. I sort of have a soft spot for them. I kind of like them. So the last row down here is a bunch of science fiction and horror films. So we've got Tron and Tron Legacy. I've got the Jim Henson non-Muppet triple pack, which includes The Dark Crystal, Mirror Mask, and Labyrinth. We've got both Terminator films, Akira, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, Independence Day and Independence Day Resurgence, it's a double pack, The Fifth Element, the Matrix trilogy, including the Animatrix, and a ton of special features, Donnie Darko, A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Serenity, which of course is the movie based on Firefly, Attack the Block, which was written by Joe Cornish, who is Edgar Wright's right-hand man. We've got Bumblebee and Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. No, Revenge of the Fallen is not a good movie, but that opening sequence is just amazing. Super 8, Paul, both Pacific Rims, Ex Machina, The Martian Special Edition. It's one of my wife's favorite movies, and I'm very glad that we have it in our collection because it really is a very good movie. We've also got Arrival. We've also got Your Name, which is one of the greatest anime films ever made, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which is also directed by Luc Besson, who directed The Fifth Element, which is one of my favorite science fiction films of all time. And if you're a fan of Lee Whannell's directed The Invisible Man, I highly recommend you check out Upgrade. He directed that as well, and it is amazing. And of course, we've got some video game and anime-based films, which includes the 1995 Mortal Kombat. We've got Warcraft, Speed Racer, Ghost in the Shell, Power Rangers, and Alita Battle Angel, and that is in Blu-ray. And the final series of movies that I've got here are my Saw films. I've got Saw all the way to Saw the Final Chapter. So that wraps up part one of my shelf extravaganza tour. I'm really, once again, sorry for the lighting. It's just such a burden to pull out all these movies and just show them to you one by one. But the most important thing is that I got to go into my entire collection and show you what I have and just at least let you know what I have. I'm sure that if you want to seriously see pictures, you can just go into IMDb or Amazon and just check out every single one of these movies for yourself. But those are all the movies that I have. There are going to be some additions to my collection very soon, which includes Disney Pixar's Onward, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and of course, one of my feel-good films of 2020, even though there weren't many to see, Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm pretty sure that there will be some others to follow in the near future. So that's it, everybody. I really hope that you enjoyed part one, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.